यो बीचमा यति धेरै इन्टरप्सन भयो कि म आफै डिसओरिएन्टेड भएँ के स्लाइडहरु पनि कहाँ पर्यो कतिजना 55 आज नि यो फर्स्ट क्लास नै हो अनि हामीले एड्रेनल हर्मोन्स पढिसकेका छौं छैन मलाई छैन जस्तो लाग्यो त्यो भएर आज एड्रेनल हर्मोन हाम्रो के अब यो एड्रेनल बाँकी छ एउटा हैन यससँगै एस्टिएस पनि सँगै हुन्छ अनि त्यसपछि पिनियल ग्ल्यान्ड बाँकी छ है
देखिए संभव साइकिल तो गिरो भी
त्यसपछि पिनियल ग्ल्यान्ड बाँकी छ हैन हेलो
हां बेटा
हेलो
यस सर
गुड मर्निङ के रे हामीरो यसमा इन्डोक्राइन र फिजियोलोजीमा के बाँकी छ मलाई लाग्छ मैले सम्झे अनुसार यो एड्रेनल हर्मोन एड्रेनल सँगै यो मतलब के रे एस्टिएस पनि यससँगै हुन्छ हैन अनि पिनियल ग्ल्यान्ड बाँकी छ है अरु त हामीले कभर गरिसकेका छौं हैन
यस सर
ल हुन्छ त्यसो भए आज अब एड्रेनलमा कति सकिन्छ पिनियल ग्ल्यान्डमा त धेरै छैन नेक्स्ट क्लासमा हाम्रो सकिन्छ अब 63 भए कति के गर्ने 5 मिनेट ल सुरु गर्दै गरौँ अब आउँदै गर्छन् मेरो स्क्रिन यहाँ देखिया छ
यस सर
ओके ल यो हामी आज एड्रेनल हर्मोन हैन एड्रेनल हर्मोनमा के रे कर्टिकल हर्मोन मेडुलरी र यससँगै रिलेटेड एसटीएस को कुरा गर्छौं है ओके सो पहिलो कुरा मलाई यो भन्नुस् हैन यो ब्याकग्राउन्डमा तपाईहरुलाई हेर्न मतलब के रे अप्ठ्यारो त भएको छैन नि छ भन्देखि म अहिले चेन्ज गर्छु ब्याकग्राउन्ड
छैन सर
छैन नि है ओके ल सो एड्रेनल ग्ल्यान्ड हामी जुन भन्छौं नि एड्रेनल ग्ल्यान्ड also called the suprarenal gland because of their location so as you can see here they are these two kidneys so about both of these kidneys there are these glands adrenal glands and that lie anteriorly to kidneys and each one is embedded in a capsule of fat so synthesis पनि तपाईले हेर्नु हो भनेदेखि कोलेस्ट्रोल बाट हैन कोलेस्ट्रोल प्रिकर्सर बाट सिन्थेसिस है हुन्छ because embedded in cap and each gland has two separate layers and two separate layer outer cortex inner medulla cortex र medulla ले they secrete different तपाईहरुको क्लासमा नेपाली यो ब्याचमा नेपाली नबुझ्ने हुनुहुन्छ कोही छ भने भन्नुस् है म युज गर्दिन बीचमा हेलो सुनिया सर
यस सर बुझ्छ सर सबैले
इंडियन स्टुडेन्ट छन् र तपाईहरुको ब्याचमा
छन् सर छन्
okay then I will not use Nepali okay so the thing is we were talking about adrenal gland and adrenal gland there are two adrenal glands and their location anterior to kidneys also called the suprarenal glands and each of these glands they have two layers and these two layers they are secreting different hormones and again these layers in these layers outer cortex is divided in 3 different layers so we'll see two parts adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. So adrenal medulla is inner portion, and it is 10 to 20% of the total adrenal gland, and then it secretes epinephrine and norepinephrine. So when we say secrete epinephrine and norepinephrine, then you can assume what is its role in, say, the regulation of different functions, because you must be knowing that when is the epinephrine and norepinephrine secreted? In which condition?
Flight condition.
Yes, sympathetic stimulation. Whenever there is sympathetic stimulation, or say 3F condition, then these hormones, epinephrine, norepinephrine, or adrenaline, noradrenaline, they are secreted. So their neural connection is there, and then the tissues they secrete, or commonly they call the catecholamines, involved in flight or fight. And then adrenal cortex, which is the outer portion, secretes variety of steroid hormones. Steroid hormones, 3 different types of hormones. Precursor, as you can see, is cholesterol. So in this figure, as you can see, this gland, this one, and then the adrenal gland, the capsule is there. Inside the capsule, and this adrenal cortex, and then the medulla is there. Again, adrenal cortex is now then divided in 3 different layers: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticularis. So glomerulosa, fasciculata, and reticularis, we in mnemonics we say GFR. GFR is a layer of adrenal cortex, and then the inner one, the medullary layer secreting catecholamines. So among these 3 layers, the majority of these is the share is of fasciculata, and fasciculata secrete glucocorticoid. So let's start from the glomerulosa, the outer one. The glomerulosa secrete mineralocorticoid, and then the fasciculata glucocorticoids, and the reticularis, it secrete androgen, or say sex steroids. But these sex steroids, you may ask that if sex steroids or the androgens are secreted from the reticularis, then what is the use of gonad and gonadal hormones? So basically, these androgens, in both these cases, male and female, they are the weaker than the gonadal hormones, but they have role in maintaining the libido. Okay, so then the inner one, catecholamines. So you can see 80% of adrenal gland is composed of cortex. You may somewhere find it 80 to 90%, and which has 3 layers. Outer on the outermost glomerulosa, then the middle one, which is the largest one, largest portion, the fasciculata, and then the reticularis is there. So all 3 layers, they are secreting, as we saw in the previous figure, they secrete different hormones. So secrete corticosteroids, of which cholesterol is common precursor. On the basis of their primary actions, they can be divided in 3 categories: mineralocorticoids. Mineralocorticoids, basically we talked about the aldosterone, and you must be knowing about the aldosterone, how important it is in long-term regulation of blood pressure and in angiotensin system DAS pathway. So which influences mineral or electrolyte balance secreted from the glomerulosa. Then this glucocorticoid, which secrete this cortisol and plays role in glucose metabolism and proteins and lipid as well. And also it has a role in stress mechanism also, coping with stress, not in stress, and coping with stress. And then the sex hormones are, as you can see, identical to those produced by gonads. But as I said, these ones are the weaker. So you can remember it as MGA, GFR, and then MGA. Okay. Now, as you can see, the precursor is cholesterol, and from this cholesterol, the action of this ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, in this hierarchy from hypothalamus to the pituitary, and then the final products from the glands. So from this, pregnenolone, and then I will not go into the details of this because biochemistry will deal this in detail. But I'm just giving you the brief idea of how they are, these hormones of the cortex, mineralocorticoid, glucocorticoid, and androgens. They are secreted or say synthesized from cholesterol. So through these different mechanisms, from pregnenolone, then 3-beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase, and then progesterone, and so on, and finally giving rise to the aldosterone. Okay. Aldosterone, on the other hand, cortisol through this they play on pregnenolone 17 alpha hydroxylase act, and then this 17 hydroxy pregnenolone is formed, and from that, through this mechanism, different steps involved in this process, and finally giving rise to the cortisol. Similarly, this endosterone, this endosterone is formed, and finally these androgens are formed. In the case of male and female, but this testosterone and estradiol, these are the form. Androgens are released. So now we will deal with the functions of individual hormones of adrenal cortex. In this, first we will go to through the mineralocorticoids, and it will be, I presume that it will be easier for you to understand the function of mineralocorticoid, because whatever function you have read about the mineralocorticoid in the long-term regulation of blood pressure, that is it's a major function, and it has not got the varied function like cortisols. So basically, in fluid, maintaining the fluid balance. So aldosterone is primary one, and its most important effect is its action on electrolyte balance. So the site of the primary site of action in renal, you must have seen what happens in presence of aldosterone. So the site of action is the distal tubules of the kidney, where it promotes sodium retention into blood, and enhances potassium elimination in urine. So you know that sodium has water retention ability, and it's so if sodium is retained, water is osmotically attracted to sodium, and the increase in water will do what? It will increase the blood volume, and you know that this is important for long-term regulation of blood pressure. So without mineralocorticoids, it has not got that much varied function like other hormones, but whatever function it has, That is very crucial one. So you can say without mineralocorticoid, death will occur due to large loss of plasma volume. That will lead to circulatory shock. And after going through cardiovascular system, how fatal can be in this situation, circulatory shock. So you can say other hormone deficiencies won't cause death directly, so their effect, and finally that can lead to. But since this is involved with maintenance of the blood pressure, or say the fluid balance, whenever there is problem with mineralocorticoid, there is dramatic change in this, then that can lead to death. Okay, so regulation. How this is regulated? Mineralocorticoids. Mineralocorticoid regulation that is mainly done through aldosterone is released due to activation of renin-angiotensin system in kidneys and released related to decrease in sodium and decrease in blood pressure. So direct stimulation of adrenal cortex by increase in blood potassium concentration, and this zone is relatively independent of anterior pituitary hormone influence of ACTH. So if you remember the hierarchy, then the hypophysiotropic hormone, and then from that pituitary, in this the role of ACTH. ACTH role is definitely very important. When you will go to cortisol, then you will see ACTH is very important there. But since this mineralocorticoid involved in maintaining the fluid balance, or say the blood volume, this is relatively doesn't mean completely independent. No, relatively independent of this ACTH, and have a weak effect in releasing aldosterone, but in general it does not. So ACTH we are referring to. Okay, now we come to we'll just talk about the regulation of cortisol, and then we'll move on to functions of cortisol. So regulation of cortisol secretion, here you can see different stimuli from different sources. That can be through sensory perceptions, that can be emotional, because emotional is also involved in the stress, and stress can be due to emotion or various other factors. So you can see hypothalamus having connections, it is receiving input about the circadian rhythm from nucleus tractus solitarius, and stress, about stress and pain, and these systems influences hypothalamus. Then from hypothalamus, this CRH, corticotropic releasing hormone, and then now from anterior pituitary, ACTH is released, and this ACTH will regulate the secretion or synthesis of this cortisol from adrenal cortex. So plasma cortisol concentration is maintained, and this is one of the example of feedback mechanism, negative feedback mechanism, which we have talked. Okay, so and once they are in the sufficient concentration in the blood, they can show their physiological effects. Okay, now when you say the factors affecting ACTH secretion, then you can see decreased blood cortisol levels acting as a stimulatory factor, then sleep wake transition or sleep wake cycle, we saw circadian rhythm, then stress, hypoglycemia, psychiatric disturbances, ADH, alpha-adrenergic agonist, beta-adrenergic antagonists, serotonin, and inhibitory increased blood cortisol level, opioids, and somatostatin. Okay, now when you go to the functions or say actions of cortisol, then cortisol has very varied function on different body systems. Somewhat like you have seen in thyroid. Thyroid has very varied function on different body systems, but not exactly like thyroid. Just to make an analogy that it has also got a very varied function. So you can see and the effect on glucose metabolism, how they promote gluconeogenesis, and then they work in tandem with the insulin from the pancreas to maintain blood glucose level in proper balance, and then effect on lipid metabolism. They increases lipolysis in adipose tissue and reduce synthesis of diacylglycerol. And then effect on protein and nucleic acid metabolism. They promote transcription and protein synthesis in liver. They also cause catabolic effects in extrahepatic, extrahepatic tissues, results in enhanced degradation of protein. Okay, then its effect on water and electrolyte metabolism. Then you will say that we talked about the fluid balance and its role of the mineralocorticoid. So if mineralocorticoid is doing that, why cortisol need to be involved in this case? Or say maintaining the water balance. So basically this is involved in water and electrolyte metabolism. How? As you can see, deficiency of the cortisol cause increased production of ADH. And you know how ADH is involved in water and electrolyte balance, or say, and this which can decrease glomerular filtration rate. Now, if glomerular filtration rate is decreased, you can assume what will happen. What will happen if glomerular filtration rate is decreased? Why nobody is answering? You have gone through all these. This is the basic of renal. What will happen if
water retention?
Yes, water retention. That has been mentioned here. But how will glomerular filtration, decrease in glomerular filtration will cause water retention?
RAS activation.
Okay. Okay. Now, its effect on immune system. Cortisol suppresses immune response directly, both directly and indirectly. How? By affecting most cells that participate in immune reactions and inflammatory reaction. So it is powerful anti-inflammatory. We will see the flow chart, which will make you more clear about the role of cortisol in metabolism, role of cortisol in immune response. So you can see the important point to be noted is that it is powerful anti-inflammatory even when it is secreted at normal levels. That's why I have made this line bold and underline. Okay, so it also reduces the rate at which lymphocytes multiply and accelerates their programmed cell death to further protect the body from overreaction. So this is one of the reasons why strong corticosteroids like prednisolone, they are used with all diseases involving inflammatory processes, including autoimmune diseases. Now, its effect on cardiovascular system, cortisol could control the contraction of the walls of mid-sized arteries, increasing the blood pressure, but this is causing contraction. So, this hypertensive effect is moderated by calcium and magnesium. It also directly affects heart by regulating sodium and potassium in heart cells and increasing the strength of contraction of heart muscle. Effect on central nervous system. It has also an effect also on the central nervous system. Changes of behavior, mood, excitability, and also even the electrical activity of neurons is in the brain frequently occur in cases of excess and deficient cortisol level. So mood disorder is also one of the feature of this Cushing syndrome. And then here you can see many signs and symptoms of adrenal fatigue involve moodiness, decreased tolerance, decreased clarity of thought, and decreased memory. Why? Because this occurs because the brain is affected by both of these conditions, too little and too much of cortisol. So their level needs to be maintained. Okay, now this flow chart, as I told you that we will see the flow chart which will make you more clear. And in this you can see cortisol's effect on metabolism by affecting various body systems, like from liver causing this gluconeogenesis, glycogenolysis, and ketogenesis. On skeletal, and by these mechanisms, it is increasing the plasma glucose, increasing ketone bodies. On a skeletal muscle, glycogenolysis, anti-insulin effect, and proteolysis, and release of amino acid and glucose. This effect is also this anti-insulin and pro-diabetogenic and ketogenic effect. Then on adipose tissue, insulin is anti-lipolytic. And this cortisol is causing lipolysis, release of free fatty acid for immediate energy, providing energy, and then increasing plasma, free fatty acid and glucose, again anti-insulin, pro-diabetogenic and ketogenic effect. And then on endocrine gland, release of glucagon and epinephrine, glycogenolysis, increasing plasma glucose, and hypothalamus, neuropeptide Y release, and increasing the release of neuropeptide Y, increasing food intake by affecting this satiety center and feeding center, hypothalamus, and then increasing obesity and insulin resistance. So as a result of this, the key point is that when you summarize the functions of the cortisol, metabolic actions of cortisol, then what you will get, that it is anti-insulin. Its functions are anti-insulin, pro-diabetogenic, and ketogenic. Why? Because it is increasing glucose, increasing ketone bodies, increasing FFA and glucose, increasing plasma glucose by endocrine gland through this glucagon and epinephrine, and then increasing obesity and also insulin resistance. Okay, then mechanism of anti-inflammatory actions of cortisol. In this, here you can see cortisol. It is increasing synthesis of lipoproteins. Then through this mechanism, inhibition of phospholipase A2 decrease release of arachidonic acid, decrease formation of mediators of inflammation like prostaglandins and leukotrienes. Then stabilization of lysosomal membrane, decreasing the release of proteolytic enzymes, and decreases the release of proteolytic enzyme, no proteolytic damage, and decrease inflammatory injury. Then inhibition of mast cell. Inhibition of mast cell, I think that is decreased release of histamine, decreased vasodilation, and decreased capillary permeability. So as a result, there will be decreased blood flow, no swelling, no flare. On leukocytes, decreasing their chemotaxis. What is chemotaxis? What is chemotaxis?
Migration of inflammatory cells in response to chemokines released from various cells.
Yes, right. You must have seen this chemotaxis in phagocytosis. So they are attracted towards those for agent, I would say chemicals. So decreasing chemotaxis, decreasing phagocytosis, and decreasing the leukocyte activity. Why? To control, we just mentioned that in our previous slide, to maintain the overreaction. To maintain overreaction, and then increase production of cytoplasmic protein, IKB alpha, and then NFK, nuclear factor K, B remains attached to this one, and then inhibition of gene transcription, you decrease formation of inflammatory chemicals. So when you summarize the mechanism of anti-inflammatory action of cortisol, then in summary, you can say that cortisol is involved in prevention of inflammation. And that's why cortisols are used in different conditions. Okay, then immunosuppressive mechanism. It has also got the immunosuppressive mechanism. So how its immunosuppressive mechanism actions are shown? Apoptosis of T cells. So when there is apoptosis of T cell, then there is decreased number of circulating T cells, then decreased NFKB activity of lymphocytes, decreased lymphocyte migration and cytokine production. On the other hand, destroying T cells in thymus and B and T cells in lymph nodes, decreasing circulating B and T cells. So by this mechanism, decreasing humoral immunity, decreasing IL-2 production from T cell, and also inhibit transformation of monocyte to macrophage. If monocyte to macrophage formation is, say, inhibited, then these cells, the phagocytic actions will be, that will be affected. So general suppression of immunity, and finally the decreased cellular immunity is there. So you can say this is important in anti-inflammatory action, this cortisol, but it is also causing the immunosuppression. That's why the use of cortisol is something which needs to be regulated and monitored, because if you use overuse this cortisol, then that can be that can have various side effects on patients. So generally, these steroids, steroid using steroid pharmacology. In pharmacology, we will be talking in detail about this steroid and how steroid. This is very risky thing. Steroid, using steroid. Okay, now we come to the adrenal and action of adrenal androgen, and you should not get confused about the adrenal androgens and then gonadal hormones. That's why this adrenal androgens produces androgenic compounds DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone, and androstenedione, which are converted to testosterone primarily in testes. In males, adrenal androgens play only a minor role because in the beginning, synthesis of testosterone from cholesterol in testes is much greater than testosterone synthesis from adrenogenic precursors. So that's why it is playing minor role. Why? Because the synthesis of testosterone from cholesterol in testis is much greater than the testosterone synthesis from androgenic precursors. In females, however, adrenal androgens are major androgens, and they are responsible for the development of pubic and axillary hair and for maintenance of libido. But when we say major androgens, then we are just comparing this in the male and female. In this case, it is not that they are the major one and then the gonadal, they are the minor one. No. And that's why more than the reproductive function or maintenance of the menstrual cycle, it is mainly in female also, where it is showing some important role than the male. And there also it is involved in development of pubic and axillary hair and maintenance of libido. Okay, so in conditions such as adrenogenital syndrome, in which there is increased synthesis of adrenal androgens, the high level of DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone, and androstenedione leads to this. I'm talking about why it is important in female. Leads to masculinization in females, masculinization in females, and then the early development of axillary and pubic hair, and also adrenogenital syndrome. Suppression of gonadal functions in both males and females. So if there is increased synthesis, in that condition, it can interfere with the normal gonadal function. Otherwise, it is just playing a supporting role in the reproductive life. Also, in the adrenogenital syndrome, due to the overproduction of adrenal androgens, there will be there will be increased urinary level of 17 ketoesteroids. Okay. Now, just we are not going into the details of pathophysiology. We are only talking about the two conditions. I know we'll talk about two conditions and how physiologically related those conditions are. And in this, basically, here, this is Addison's disease. So Addison's disease, I'm not much interested in clinical features because I know in pathology we'll be dealing in those things in detail. I'm more concerned about the ACTH level. So ACTH level, Addison disease, where primary adrenocortical insufficiency is there, increased ACTH level is there due to negative feedback effect of decreased cortisol. And in Cushing syndrome and Cushing disease. In Cushing syndrome, these features, the hyperglycemia, muscle wasting, central obesity, and we'll see a figure which depicts all those. But the ACTH level decrease, ACTH level is there. And why is that? Negative feedback effect of increased cortisol in Cushing syndrome. Whereas in Cushing disease, what is happening to ACTH? Here, just note this point. In Cushing syndrome, ACTH level decrease. And why is that decrease? Decrease due to the feedback, negative feedback effect of increased cortisol. Cortisol is increased, so negative feedback is provided and ACTH level is decreased. Similar and same what you have read in, same like what you have read in the hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism. What happens in hyperthyroidism to the level of TSH? Primary hyperthyroidism. Anyone? Okay, let me call the name since none of you are interested. Anyone? Ajay, are you there?
Yes, sir.
What happens in primary hyperthyroidism to the level of TSH?
Thyroid or primary hyperthyroidism. In primary hyperthyroidism, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone level
will decrease.
Decrease, yes, sir.
Yes.
Because hormone thyroxine increases, TSH decreases.
Yes. TSH decreases. Why? Because of the feedback.
Negative
same
feedback.
Thing, yes, same thing is happening here. This ACTH level is decreasing. Why it is decreasing? Because of the negative feedback effect of increased cortisol. Now, differentiating. My concern is here is only about you should be able to differentiate between Cushing syndrome and Cushing disease. So see, Cushing's disease. In Cushing disease, what is happening? Excess ACTH is there. Right? And ACTH level is increased. And then there are other conditions like Cohen syndrome, then 21 beta hydroxylase deficiency. Okay, so see, Cushing syndrome versus Cushing disease. These are the features of Cushing syndrome. The plethora is there, buffalo hump, and then the centripetal obesity or central obesity. There are infections, and then the associated features are there, and the thinning of hair, cataract, and hirsutism, and the acne, psychosis, and other features are there. So Cushing syndrome is the result of chronic excess of glucocorticoid. It can be caused by spontaneous overproduction of cortisol by the adrenal cortex or from the administration of pharmacologic doses of exogenous glucocorticoids. Whereas Cushing disease is a separate entity. People say, if you mention this to any non-medical person, then they will say they are the same thing, because Cushing syndrome and Cushing disease. But there is difference, and that is Cushing disease is a separate entity characterized by excess glucocorticoids. Excess glucocorticoids, in which the cause is, what is the cause? Lying mechanism is hypersecretion of ACTH. Hypersecretion of ACTH from pituitary adenoma. So this will drive the adrenal cortex to secrete excess cortisol. So you should be able to differentiate between Cushing syndrome and Cushing disease. Okay. Now we come to the adrenal medulla. Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
In Cushing syndrome, why there is increased in aldosterone levels, sir? Because if there is excess ACTH, then as you had said that ACTH don't generally affect the mineralocorticoids.
Yes.
Then why there is hyperaldosteronism in Cushing syndrome?
Hyperaldosteronism in that is not basically associated with this. That is to maintain, as you can say,
Maximum symptom of Cushing syndrome like edema, and that all is due to sodium and water retention, and that is due to aldosterone secretion in the body. So
yes. That happens there. Aldosterone secretion is increased, and that is due to this imbalance of the electrolytes. And you must have seen that this cortisol is also involved in maintaining. Somehow it has got the effect in maintenance of the electrolyte. I'll just go back and show you this slide where we mentioned that this cortisol is metabolic effects. Say yes. Here, can you see this slide? देखा सा है ना मेरा?
yes, sir.
Okay. So say effect on water and electrolyte metabolism. So when there is deficiency or say changes or alteration in the level of cortisol, then that will affect with the ADH, and there is change in the glomerular filtration and water retention. And once water retention or say imbalance is there, then aldosterone has to come into play. Oh, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So basically, it is not that aldosterone, hyperaldosteronism is happening there because of this increased cortisol level or say the ACTH. It is because that is involved in maintaining water and electrolyte balance. And since this change in cortisol level, alteration in cortisol level is also altering not the primary effect, but that will definitely alter the water and electrolyte metabolism. So mineralocorticoids, they are released and they are causing the imbalance there, and whatever this edema and other features you mentioned, that is there. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir. Actually, in some book, if there is a Cushing syndrome, then in some book there is it is due to increased glucocorticoids. Yeah, and in some book there is written that it is due to increase in glucocorticoids and also to some extent increased mineralocorticoids. So
okay, yes, yes. Then there are the effect of these the mineralocorticoids. But when you go through other features of this Cushing syndrome, then these features are, most of these features are those which are altered by the functions of cortisol. If you relate those features, like, even Swanta, Okay, like these features, right? Hyperglycemia, or say muscle wasting, central obesity, isn't it? These features are mainly associated with this cortisol function, isn't it? So yes, you cannot deny the fact that there and this in Cushing syndrome, hyperaldosteronism can occur, or say the aldosterone level can increase, but you cannot say that this cortisol, or say we were primarily discussing about, since in this we said the mineralocorticoid regulation is relatively independent of ACTH. Why will ACTH, or say the the aldosterone level increase? Question.
Sir.
Right. So Cushing syndrome हामीले के अरे यो फिडब्याक मेकानिजमले गर्दा के अरे कर्टिसोलको लेभलमा डिक्रिज भएको छ, तर अरु यो फिचरहरु देखिएपछि तपाईको के अरे एल्डोस्टेरोनको लेभलमा चेन्ज आउँछ किनभनेदेखि एल्डोस्टेरोन पनि फ्लुइड एन्ड इलेक्ट्रोलाइट लेभल मेन्टेन गर्न इन्भल्भ छ है. What I understand about this अब यसमा अझै मतलब के अरे is Cushing syndrome mainly that is associated with the aldosterone? No, primarily that is not. Primarily that is associated with the change in cortisol level. Okay. Clear भयो?
Yes sir.
Okay, ल अगाडि बढौं है. Okay ल. So adrenal medulla. But you raised a very important question है. यसमा हामी फेरि अर्को क्लासमा नि मतलब अलिक कुरा गरौँला है. Adrenal medulla. Adrenal medulla, functional unit of adrenal medulla is chromaffin cell, which functions as neuroendocrine cell. Why? Because they secrete this epinephrine and norepinephrine. So in response to stimulation, chromaffin cells secrete the hormone epinephrine and norepinephrine directly into the blood. So it is involved in extreme stress, and within this context, epinephrine and norepinephrine both work with cortisol from the adrenal cortex. Right? यहाँ पनि तपाईले अघि भने जस्तै मतलब त्यसको हेर्नुस् है, यो कर्टिसोल कर्टेक्सबाट रिलिज हुन्छ यो एपिनेफ्रिन and norepinephrine, they are from the medulla, but they are working with cortisol in which conditions, like say conditions like coping with stress and other conditions, because in this condition coping with stress, this cortisol, they have very important role. So epinephrine and norepinephrine, I think I don't need to explain you because you have gone through the autonomic nervous system, how important they are in crisis situation. So when you talk about the actions of epinephrine, its effect on carbohydrate metabolism. So both of them can increase glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis, and decrease glycogenesis. Then catecholamine promote the release of glucose from liver and decrease its utilization by muscle. Epinephrine inhibits insulin secretion but promote glucagon secretion. Okay. Why? किन हुन्छ होला यस्तो? Anyone?
Question actually.
Epinephrine inhibits insulin secretion and promote glucagon secretion.
किनभने emergency hormone हो नि त सर, अनि emergency मा त we need energy हैन, ग्लुकोज लेभल हाई हुनु पर्यो, जसले अक्सिडेसनहरु बढी हुनु पर्यो, त्यसको लागि चाहिँ ग्लाइकोजेनोलाइसिस गराउनलाई ग्लुकागोन हाई हुनु पर्यो.
Exactly. Glucagon is also the hormone of starvation, and this epinephrine, it is also involved in crisis situation. So epinephrine inhibits insulin secretion because insulin is involved in storage whenever there is abundant energy storage, and glucagon promoting glucagon secretion. Then effect on lipid metabolism. Both of them in this epinephrine and epinephrine enhance the breakdown of TAZ in adipose tissue, and this cause increase in free fatty acid in the circulation. Again, the effect which will help in providing energy in a crisis situation, and which are effectively utilized by heart and muscle as fuel source. And then effect on physiological functions like catecholamines, increase cardiac output, blood pressure, and oxygen consumption. And they also cause smooth muscle relaxation in bronchi, GIT, and blood vessels supplying skeletal muscles. Okay. 12 बजेदेखि तपाईहरुको अर्को क्लास छ होला है?
Yes sir.
ओके ल, ठीक छ। त्यसो भए अब भोलिको यो भोलि छ कि छैन हाम्रो फिजियोलोजीको? Whatever. In next class हाम्रो यो के रे स्ट्रेस र फिनल ग्ल्यान्डको गरौँ, हाम्रो भ्याइन्छ मजाले हैन, त्यसपछि सकिन्छ हाम्रो है। ओके ल, थ्यांक यू एभ्रीवन।